Here's how to get perfect color on any camera every time. Set your exposure. Use a color checker passport video and false color on your monitor. Adjust your exposure until the middle gray bar lights up green. Perfect exposure. Done. Set your white balance, but don't just pick a preset or dial in your Kelvin and call it good. Flip to the gray card and set a custom white balance. Most cameras make this super quick. You need to set a custom white balance. Every camera, lens, filter introduces slight variations, warmer, cooler, greener, magenta, so you have to adjust for that. Next, turn the passport video around. Those color chips aren't just for show. Record a clip of the colors. Later in post, match them to the boxes on your vector scope using the hue versus hue curve in your editor. Skin tones are critical. On the vector scope, there's a line around 11 o'clock. All of your skin tones should align with it. Use hue versus hue adjustments to dial them into that bloodline. This method gets your color scientifically accurate regardless of what monitor you're using. You could do all this even in black and white, even if you're colorblind. Once you've nailed it, save a preset for your camera. This can save you time and keep your color consistent on future shoots, even if you're in a rush and you forget to do all this stuff. Color correction is about accuracy and consistency. You get your baseline right first before you start doing any stylistic color grading.
Everyone wants to know how to get perfect color for their video and for their photos. It's an admirable, noble pursuit to have the best color possible because most of the time videos can look pretty ugly and the color can be kind of gross, especially for amateurs or even professionals who can call themselves professionals. A lot of times you can look at someone's color and go like, "Ooh, that doesn't look quite right. That doesn't look like Hollywood. That doesn't look very good." And I will say that there are a lot of things you can do to get the perfect best color possible. But I will also say that it is a never-ending rabbit hole where you can dive further and further and further into the catacombs of color, trying to make it absolutely perfect, and it will all be a waste. Because at the end of the day, color is always determined on what the consumer is viewing it on. What screen are they watching on? Is it a phone? What version of the phone is it? Is it iPhone? Is it Android? How old is that phone? Has the screen been replaced? Are they watching on a television? What model of television? What settings have they tuned themselves? Are they in the cinema mode? Are they in the standard profile? Or are they in the default factory, whatever they gave you? Are they watching on a projector? Are they watching on a computer, on an iPad? There are so many different ways to consume content, and the pursuit of making it perfect on all of them is basically impossible. So I would say my number one secret for the best color possible is just kind of relax and do the best you can with the tools that you have. Even when you're trying to color grade and you're trying to get all your, settings exactly perfect, it's what monitor are you looking on? Have you calibrated your monitor? Probably not. And if you spend the money to calibrate it, guess what? Your export settings are going to screw it up. Adobe and Premiere have goofy gamma settings and strange curves as it plays with QuickTime. You look at it in Premiere and it looks bad, it looks good, and then you export it and you're wondering it's desaturated, and there's some settings in Lumetri that you can apply different gamma settings to really see exactly. But ultimately you're always picking what you're watching on compared to a specific output. And the same is true of audio for that fact. You think of a lot of times when people are worried about their audio, their headphones, they're listening on speakers, they're listening on a phone, they're listening on a TV. The pursuit is never ending. And even the biggest budget movies struggle with getting their audio right or even getting their color right. If you look at some of the DVD, or Blu-ray remasters, you'll find plenty of people in the fan base who are irritated or frustrated that the color on the Blu-ray looks different than the DVD version. And really, you got to go back to the VHS or the Laserdisc for the best color for whatever favorite film or franchise it is. It is never ending. The critique is never ending, and the frustration, you end up pulling your hair out trying to make your thing look perfect on an not infinite, it's not truly infinite, but it can feel infinite, endless, limitless, the amount of screens and ways that these things get consumed. And you can't ever be in every single person's living room or with them while they're watching it going like, oh, no, actually that's supposed to be a little bit bluer, or that's supposed to be a little bit more saturated, or oh, my contrast, my black levels, my highlights. You'll go crazy. And here's the beauty of it. You have influencers, you have TikTokers, YouTubers, content creators, all sorts of people filming on their phone and just uploading. And they can get millions of views just doing that, just shooting with their basic, they don't even have a log profile. They have no color grading. They have just whatever the camera shot and they upload it. And at the end of the day, it's kind of about the content. As long as that color is good enough, as long as the audio is good enough, can you hear what is being said? Can you see with some level, quality? Does it look decent? Is it good enough? That usually is good enough. So hopefully you can take into consideration the tip that I left at the beginning of this video, which is how to achieve perfect color. And then you can go from there and just kind of relax a little bit and take it easy and just do the best you can. Obviously, the more things you can do to optimize, you should do, but also don't stress it. You can spend an infinite amount of time trying to achieve perfect color only to be frustrated just because it's not. You can research all the different color profiles and spaces and the gamma and the gamut and the this and that and the curve, and just for it to all be ruined because someone decided to watch it on their television that they never spent any time calibrating, or they just popped up on their phone and it looks bad because they replaced their screen 2 years ago because they had a crack in it. And you will be frustrated. You will be irritated, but just let it go. Just try not to care as much. It's one of those things that there's other things to focus on that are probably more important. Like I said, an influencer can just upload a video from their photo gallery on their phone, paying no mind. They're just playing around with a filter maybe. Maybe that's all they do. They go into the filters, they say, yeah, that looks good, good enough, I'll upload it. Meanwhile, someone on Android, it might look slightly different, or someone watches a YouTube short on their TV and it looks slightly different. But most viewers don't care as long as it's visible, it sounds good enough. Is anything offending them about the color? Is there anything, causing them issues with the audio? As long as there's no problems, there is no issue. They're just enjoying the content. And that can be really irritating for an artist to hear, someone who wants to achieve perfection, because I think a lot of us like that idea. Like I said, it's kind of a noble pursuit to be the best you can be, but also give yourself some grace, give yourself a little bit of breathing room to not over worry and over stress, because oftentimes that can end up causing more problems. You can spend more time working to make something better, and it can end up being worse because you've now baked in extra factors or extra settings that took you time that ultimately didn't display on the final screen wherever it was shown. And that can be super frustrating. So oftentimes I'm just going with lowest common denominator. Does it look good for me and the places that I watch? It doesn't have to be exactly perfect between the two. I understand that my computer monitor might look slightly different than my iPhone, which might look slightly different than my television. But if I check in on those and I'm happy with the results and it looks good enough across all three places, there's no perfect way to make one video file look identical on all three. It's just not going to happen unless I had 3 different files for every, 3 different displays. And that's where it becomes almost endless. It's limitless. It's infinite, the variables that you would have to track down and all the different versions you'd have to export and all the time that you'd be wasting in this noble pursuit for perfect, super accurate color. You can get close. You can get good enough. You can get really, really good. And then it can all be ruined by the final display that it gets sent. Not let alone you upload it to a platform and it also goes through compression and color processing and all the things that they do it after you upload it a certain spot. I've opened the same video file in QuickTime, VLC, and watched it on YouTube, and it has looked different in all 3 spots. The same exact video file. That will make you go mad if you take it too seriously, worried about how can I make this, perfect and exactly what I want. Get it good for you, be happy with it, and then let it out into the world and kind of just let go. Don't worry, don't care. I know that's not the answer that you wanted. You wanted to click on this video and for me to tell you exactly the formula. And the truth is, there isn't one. There's no way, because you can't monitor. You can't go into everyone's house and calibrate their monitors. The world just doesn't work that way. Everything is different. It's infinite variables. So you just got to kind of let it go and do the best you can. And, whether you're using DaVinci Resolve or Premiere or Final Cut, you can get really, really good results. It doesn't matter the camera. It doesn't matter the software. You can achieve really good results with anything out these days. It's all really, really good. There's some some steps you have to go through to achieve it. You know, you have to know how the tools work, which is why you should go watch, tutorials that teach you how to do that stuff. That's not what this is. Do the best you can, but don't fall down the endless pit rabbit hole of color grading perfection. Because by the time you reach that standard of what is perfect, when you have achieved it, you have the broadcast monitor, you have everything dialed in, it's perfectly set for you. You are the one person who can watch that content and enjoy it in the way that is meaningful to you. Meanwhile, everybody else will never have that same experience because no one else has that equipment, no one else has that software, no one else they're watching on their phone. And all the content they're bombarded by is mostly produced on a phone or, basic camera in the standard profile. There's just more people creating content at that basic entry level. And most of the time that stuff looks pretty good because the companies who make these things realize they need to be kind of dummy proof. They just need to work and look good enough right off the bat. So you can jump through a lot of hoops to make it perfect, only to have something that is less good to look at than what an iPhone or your typical Canon, Rebel camera can produce, just the standard profile. I don't even know if they make the Rebel cameras anymore. But that's like, in my mind, that's like the default consumer Best Buy camera, the Canon Rebel. It's what, like, I don't know, they must have sold 1 million of those things. Because it's just the dummy proof. It's just you click a button and it looks good. And yet professionals will pull their hair out going mad trying to make it perfect. And most of the time, a lot of people, they don't know exactly how the tools work. And so they end up ruining it or adding layers of unnecessary work just to ultimately get the same result that someone could have done in 2 seconds on their phone. So know it all. You can do the endless research if you want, but just also know where you're spending your time matters. There's a lot of things that are just the carrot on the stick that you'll never get because it's a fantasy. It's not reality. There's no perfect way to do it. Plenty of movies are, sound mastered by the pros, and they still sound terrible when you're in the theater because the theater tech tweaked something or, it wasn't optimized for that version of Dolby Atmos or whatever. Same thing at your house. Oh, this is an HDR thing, blah, blah, but then like the streaming platform doesn't support it or the TV doesn't support that particular version of that HDR Pro. And you're trying to make it the best and it ends up looking the worst. So just relax a little bit. Take it easy. Lowest common denominator. Make it look good enough, but don't overthink it. Don't overcomplicate it because it will drive you mad.